Today on Rappler, COMELEC proclaims 53 party list winners despite the possibility of another Supreme Court intervention. ABS-CBN and Globe Telecom announce a partnership that converges its media and telecommunications assets. And the Philippine Coast Guard allows Taiwan to question its personnel in the shooting of a Taiwanese fisherman. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. The Commission on Elections proclaims 53 party list winners of the 2013 midterm polls. COMELEC clarifies the list as, quote, initial winners. In a resolution, COMELEC says it proclaims the groups, quote, without prejudice to the proclamation of other parties, which may later on be established to be entitled to one guaranteed seat and/or additional seats. The pro-life group Buhay leads the roster of party list winners with 1,265,992 votes, winning 3 seats in the House of Representatives. With 2 seats are A. Teacher, Bayan Muna, One Care, Akbayan, Abono, Ako Bicol, OFW Family, Gabriela, Co-op Natco, Agap, Sibak. Proclaimed with 1 seat are Abamin, ACT Teachers, Butil, Amin, ACT CIS Kalinga, LPGMA, TUCP, Yakap, Agri, Angkla, ABS, Diwa, Kabataan, Anak Pawis, Alay Buhay, Aambis OWA, One Sagip, Ave, Ating Co-op, One BAP, Abakada, Ama, ang NARS. The COMELEC, sitting as the National Board of Canvassers, leaves 5 congressional seats vacant. The party list proclamations could still be affected if the Supreme Court grants a reprieve to groups disqualified during election season. One of the most affected groups is senior citizens. It had enough votes to win, but COMELEC disqualified it based on new criteria from the Supreme Court. COMELEC Chair Sixto Brillantes says the Supreme Court can still issue status quo ante orders, or SQAs, against COMELEC. He adds these orders could come after at least 5 disqualified groups appealed cases before the Supreme Court. Will the status quo ante force COMELEC to recompute the party list votes and possibly cancel the proclamations of some party list groups? Brillantes says, quote, this will entail adjustments. Some groups may even get dislodged. He adds if the Supreme Court grants a reprieve to the group senior citizens, the top vote-getter Buhay, which got 3 seats, may lose a seat in Congress. Other groups on the fringes may also lose their seats, but veteran election lawyer Romulo Macalintal says he doubts the Supreme Court will issue SQA, status quo ante orders. Macalintal adds, it would be highly ridiculous if the Supreme Court would still go against the findings of COMELEC when the Supreme Court itself gave it authority to determine if these groups will pass these guidelines. The Philippine Coast Guard says it will allow Taiwanese investigators to interview the crew involved in the shooting of a Taiwanese fisherman on May 9th. Commodore Eduardo Gongona is confident.
All others, wala kaming tinago sa kanila. The Coast Guard is not hiding anything. Everything was transparent. Yun ang sabi ni Commandant namin na ipakita lang lahat kung ano.
The Taiwanese team finished its inspection of the Maritime Commercial Service 3001, the vessel involved in the confrontation with a Taiwanese boat Quang Ta Xing No. 28. The Philippine Coast Guard reports a Taiwanese boat was seen in Balintang Island in the northern Philippines. The Filipinos tried to stop the Taiwanese boat from entering Manila's exclusive economic zone. The Coast Guard says the fishermen ignored orders for them to turn back, and their boat allegedly rammed the Coast Guard ship. The National Bureau of Investigation reveals it allowed the Taiwanese to watch the video of the encounter for a second time. Taiwanese investigators will question the Philippine Coast Guard crew in the presence of the lawyers. The Taiwanese investigators completed its ballistic examination May 27. Lopez-led ABS-CBN and Ayala-led Globe Telecom seals the second convergence deal of media and telecommunications in the country. ABS-CBN's Chief Finance Officer Rolando Valduesa says the partnership allows ABS-CBN to deliver its content on mobile devices. He adds, quote, Through the network sharing agreement, Globe will provide capacity and coverage on its existing cellular mobile telephony network to ABS-CBN convergence on a nationwide basis. The parties may also share assets such as servers, towers, and switches. The partnership has been in the works for over 5 years. The Lopez and Ayala business groups quickly followed up the deal with the announcement of a new service called ABS-CBN Mobile. ABS-CBN Chair Eugenio Lopez III says, quote, "It's a separate mobile brand. You have Smart, Globe, and now ABS-CBN Mobile." Officials say ABS-CBN Mobile is expected to launch the second half of 2013. Its subscribers can make phone calls, send text messages, and use data services. In a separate announcement, Globe says its unit Innovate Communications Inc. and ABS-CBN Convergence Inc. or ABS-C are the entities that entered into a deal. Globe says they will provide network capacity and coverage to ABS-C on a nationwide basis and connect ABS-C's prepaid and postpaid billing and customer service management system to the network resources to be provided by Globe and Innovate. This deal follows similar convergence moves by PLDT Chair Manuel V. Pangilinan, whose group acquired TV5 in 2009. More private colleges and universities hike their fees in the new school year. In an unbanked meeting Monday, the Commission on Higher Education, CHED, approved 78% of applications for increases in tuition and other fees. 354 colleges and universities will raise their fees this year, an increase from last year's 222. The approved average tuition fee hike per unit is 37.45 pesos or 8.5% nationwide. CHED Chairperson Patricia Licuanan says it's the lowest percentage increase in the last 10 years. The private schools cited faculty salaries as the main reason for the tuition fee hikes. Victims of child sex abuse by the Catholic clergy in Australia and their supporters call for the resignation of the church's top-ranking cardinal, Sydney Archbishop Cardinal George Pell. On Monday, Pell admits to cover-ups by a predecessor, saying he was, quote, "absolutely sorry." Pell says progress was made as the church became aware of the extent of the problem. Many in the public gallery of the hearing were unmoved. Abuse victim Stephen Woods says he's surprised by Pell's statements the cardinal had acted in the best interests of victims. Victims campaigner Helen Last says Pell should be removed after admissions the church covered up crimes in order to protect its reputation. Asked whether he agreed that the Catholic Church had placed pedophile priests above the law, Pell replied, quote, "In some cases, unfortunately." The Catholic Church in Victoria admitted there were 620 cases of criminal child abuse dating back to the 1930s. China's state media reports a newborn baby boy was rescued from a sewage pipe in an apartment building after being flushed down a toilet. Residents in Jinhua called firefighters after hearing the 2-day-old baby boy crying in the 4th-floor squat lavatory. Attempts to pull him out failed, so rescuers sawed away a section of the 4-inch diameter pipe with the baby inside and took him to a local hospital. The baby suffered some cuts to the face and limbs. Heart rate was low at one point. The infant was put in an incubator and is now in stable condition. Well, let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 8, with a June 6 deadline for the European Union to decide whether to go ahead and impose punitive duties averaging 47% on imported Chinese solar products, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang weighs in for the first time. He warns an EU investigation into Chinese-made solar panels and telecommunications equipment would backfire by hurting European consumers. The European Commission argues Chinese firms are unfairly undercutting rivals. At number 9, the United Kingdom and France are forcing the EU to lift sanctions against war-torn Syria, citing negotiations on the easing of the arms embargo. The Guardian reports the vast majority of EU states oppose the shift, but assents in order to preserve a semblance of unified policy. The dispute over how to respond to the civil war in Syria has exposed deep divisions in Europe. And at number 10, the findings of a study question the little we know of what the moon is actually made of. A study published in the journal Nature Geoscience says minerals found in craters on the moon may be remnants of asteroids that slammed into it and not the satellite's innards exposed by the impact. It has long been thought that meteoroids vaporize on impact with large celestial bodies. Unusual minerals like spinel and olivine found in many lunar craters, but rarely on the moon's surface, were attributed to the excavation of subsurface lunar layers by asteroid hits. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. The San Antonio Spurs returns to the NBA Finals after sweeping the Memphis Grizzlies in their Western Conference Finals series. Tony Parker scores 37 points with 6 assists, while Tim Duncan posts 15 points and 8 rebounds to lead the Spurs to the 93-86 win, giving them a berth in the championship round for the first time since 2007. The Spurs will wait for the winner of the Eastern Conference Finals series, where Miami Heat is leading 2-1 over the Indiana Pacers. Doctors say prevention is always better than a cure, especially for cervical cancer. Devin Wong reports.
Philippines cervical cancer free forever.
Cancer isn't a subject that most people want to talk about, but doctors say it's buzz that will encourage cancer prevention before treatment. Cervical cancer is the second highest form of cancer for women in the Philippines. Many women carrying the disease aren't diagnosed until they're in the advanced stages. Every day, 12 women die of cervical cancer in the Philippines. It's been called a silent killer. Advocates believe the time is now for women to screen themselves as early as possible, before symptoms show.
Filipino mothers are known to be martyrs in life. I mean, they'd rather do everything and anything for their loved ones. But this is a time to actually love ourselves.
Cervical cancer is commonly caused by infection of HPV, or human papillomavirus. But it's also one of the most preventable forms of cancer, with HPV vaccines available in the market. But doctors fear that it's the price point that puts most women off.
The price is definitely one of the barriers. It's premium priced. But if you educate people enough, we're trying to mobilize and lobby so that there can be some sort of funding from the government or partnership with local government units to make this more accessible to women.
Doctors believe that the social stigma of HPV as a sexually transmitted disease also plays a role in the low pre-screening rates.
We try to educate people that human papillomavirus is very common, so anybody can get it. Even if you're monogamous, you're single, you're a family woman, you're in a stable relationship, that's really not a guarantee that you're not going to get infected.
The answer to HPV may already be available, but it doesn't do much if women aren't ready to ask questions. It may not be a glamorous topic, but these doctors hope that HPV screening becomes a more attractive idea to women. Devin Wong, Rappler, Subic.
Every story on Rappler has a mood meter which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page. That crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories that have affected our readers the most emotionally. If you take a look here, the 10 stories today, it is a red day. And we go from today's stories, more colleges to hike fees, says Ched. You have 53% angry. Something that happened just last night, BPI transactions via ATMs restored, still 73% angry. And of course, you've had Gilas uninvited to the Jones Cup, the sports offshoot of the battle between Taiwan and the Philippines on the death of the Taiwanese fisherman. Take a look. It's a red day today. Most people are angry. Well, that's Rappler's Newscast for today, Tuesday, May 28, 2013. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.